Hi everyone. So thank you for staying and joining us for our second panel today, which is how brokers, banks, OTC desks can really turn opportunity into action. So we all know that building a digital asset platform is actually very, very challenging, right? It's almost like building an F1 track, right? You need reliable infrastructure, you need regulations that actually people can really comply, right? And without all these things, things can get pretty chaotic. So today we have three very fantastic panelists today with us. I think we have Nishal, right, who's brought Philippines into the global digital asset market. We have Khun, who is the CEO and co-founder of Bitkub, right, who brought crypto mainstream into Thailand. And then we also have Charmaine, head of OTC at Hextras, that really make sure that big trades gets done smoothly. So I rather for myself to talk through their CVs, I would just let them introduce themselves, right? Maybe share briefly what you guys do and how you guys get connected into digital assets. Yeah.
Thank you, Pam. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nishal Gaba. I'm the founder and CEO of PDAX. We are a regulated exchange in the Philippines for crypto and other digital assets. Over the years, we've grown into different verticals in the Philippines. We facilitate cross-border remittance through stablecoins. We've tokenized the national treasury instruments of the Philippine Republic, made them available also on our exchange, and we're hoping to do more and support the growth of crypto in the Philippines.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kay. I am a co-founder and the CEO of Bitkub Exchange. We're the largest crypto exchange in Thailand. We have about 80 to 90% market share and about 5.1 million users in Thailand. We're doing about 100 to 300 million USD trading volume daily. We've been regulated by the Thai SEC since the start of 2019. And I personally have been in the space for almost 10 years now, and I'm happy to be here.
Hi everyone, I'm Charmaine. I'm from Hextras. I'm heading the OTC desk. We are fully licensed regulators, financial institutions for digital asset. We offer full spectrum of services across custody, staking, trading, and investment products for institutional clients.
Yeah, so thanks, guys. So maybe let's start this scene today by really understanding where demand is, right? Because we know that digital assets have gone from niche into mainstream, and the demand is actually very, very different, right, between retail and institutions. So maybe from your perspective, maybe starting with Nishal from the retail, right? Where do you actually see demand strongest today, right? And then does that look any different now that digital assets is moving into mainstream?
Well, I guess the Philippine setting is also a little bit more nuanced, right? Where retail investors don't have access to even the most basic financial instruments. So the demand is actually all across the board. We've started with making available treasuries in token form. Eventually, we want to make more asset classes available also in token form. Stable coins are having its day in the sun. A big reason for that is a lot of Filipinos actually have some kind of economic nexus outside the Philippines, whether they have family sending money back home or they're acting as virtual assistants for folks in the US and they need to get paid. So stablecoins are gaining a bit of adoption, and in fact, a big chunk of our trading volumes now are in stablecoins for that reason.
Well, I think in Thailand, crypto has been mainstream since 2021, but that was when people could only access to spot trading. But right now, I think things have become a little bit different, because we're seeing a lot of stablecoins projects after Trump came, right? Stablecoins seem to surge from out of nowhere, and in our country as well, we are one of the four main issuers of Thai baht stablecoin, backed by the Central Bank of Thailand. But we're not only seeing stablecoins, the rise of stablecoin, but especially in Thailand, we're seeing a lot of RWAs actually. And recently, the government just announced that they would come up with this project called G Token, which is basically a government bond-backed token launched by the government itself. And then after that, carbon credits, renewable energy certificates backed token, even wine backed token, came up, right? So a lot of things are heading towards RWAs from my perspective, because blockchain, intertwines with all other industries, and I think this coming wave will be very interesting, especially in Thailand.
And for Charmaine, do you see anything different from the institutional side that you work with?
I guess it'll be similar to what the two guests are seeing as well. But to add a bit on top of that, it's less about speculation now. It's more about regulator entry points, operational kind of excellence on smoothing the frictions that TradFi currently has, and also having the familiarity for the institutional clients to adopt it. And I'm just going to list a few examples. For example, from the previous panel, ETF. This is the cleanest way for institutional managers to get on ramp and to get involved in the space. And just to throw a few numbers around. So yesterday on Monday, the US spot ETF with the Ethereum and Bitcoin combined net inflows actually surpassed the 1 billion benchmark. And that's huge when we talk about kind of the market cap that we are looking at. Stablecoins, Hong Kong stablecoins regime definitely catalyzed the regional activity into kind of people looking into the space. And just to give a few figures as well, for example, the global stablecoin market cap is now at the low hundreds of billions of dollars. And this gives you an idea on kind of like the amount of capital that it has attracted from the traditional rails into the space. This gives you a pretty good idea on that one. And last but not least, tokenization, the RWAs, it basically unlocks liquidity in very traditional illiquid assets. And experts had to say they're looking at the market cap of the RWAs or tokenization to reach 1 to 4 trillion by 2030. So this is basically a major benchmark for the next decade of growth.
Yeah, I think totally agree that tokenization is definitely making a big wave, right? I want to bring a bit back just now to what Khun mentioned about the government-backed tokens, right? And I see that is more kind of a regulated kind of supported program driven by the regulator, right? So I think that really brings me to the next question, because a lot of time demand is just one side of the equation, right? And regulation really often decides what products actually institutions really want to offer to the market, right? So how do you see actually regulation influencing what products institutions really realistic can do? Right, and it's also good because in this panel we really have different perspectives from like the Philippines, from Thailand, and from Hong Kong. So it would be good for you to share some of the hurdles or obstacles that you guys face.
So maybe a little bit of misconception, I guess I'd like to clarify, at least based from our direct experience. Regulations don't actually dictate what the market does. In fact, if you speak with a regulator, they will say we're just reacting to what our constituents need. And hey, nobody wants to launch a stablecoin. Why would we write stablecoin rules? And I think in the case of the Philippines that had launched tokenized treasury bills, it was more the case that institutions saw the inherent value proposition of turning to tokenization, and then jointly lobbying alongside banking partners, alongside crypto exchanges to push the regulatory agenda. So certainly what is happening around the world, what's happening in the US with the Genius Act and the Clarity Act is having some ripple effects, because regulators in the Philippines are now far less inclined to say, well, that's crypto, we don't know that, we don't want to touch that, and instead are more inclined to say, okay, we'll listen, let's try to do what the US is doing and support this. So it's, to cut the long story short, regulatory clarity has significantly helped adoption, but clarity alone will not solve for the value prop that institutions could realize here.
Yeah, my thinking aligns with yours in a way that I think that regulatory clarity is probably one of the largest key drivers for institutions. right? Take us, for example, we never like things to be in the gray area. We like things when it's either black or white, so that we can plan, our roadmaps, right? And take OTC in Thailand, for example. It had always been in the gray area. That's why we didn't do it. But a few, local players operated in that kind of area. But right now, with more clarity, we're now able to do OTC. We'll do it with Talos as well. And a lot of things have resurfaced. Not only OTC, crypto payment. We're going to launch crypto payment in Thailand for all the tourists that come to our country by next month. And they are even allowing us to acquire securities brokerage license, allowing us to go IPO too. But we're going to IPO next year. So a lot of things to look forward to, and it couldn't be possible without regulatory clarity.
Right, but on the flip side, right, I think also because you guys are very licensed players in your respective jurisdictions, how effective do you think regulation is actually addressing all those unlicensed players that are popping up in a lot of these regions? Yeah.
Lots of room for improvement, for sure. Because I mean, I say this in jest, but Philippine regulators love writing rules, but they don't actually enforce those rules. I hope that doesn't give anyone any ideas. This is but kidding aside, very difficult, right? Because I guess Kay can relate to this. We feel as though the playing field has never really been level, right? Like we pay taxes, we comply with local rules on KYC. We can't offer advanced trading features. We can't offer leverage. So it's just very difficult. And I think in a way it also holds back innovation in the more institutional side of things, because if you can't compete, then folks who want to enter the crypto space legitimately will struggle to find any value. So yeah, certainly big room for improvement on that front.
Yeah, just to quickly add in on that, I think there is this saying that goes, the regulators are regulating the space for the benefits of those unregulated players. Still true to a certain extent to this day, but I think it has gotten quite a lot better during the past few years. And I think it's like that because they're reacting, right? And if they don't react, then shit hits the fan, then they are literally the only one to be blamed. So it's understandable why they are being protective. But I think I'm seeing the trend that they have been changing, and they have been changing quite a lot recently, at least in Thailand. Yeah.
I'm going to add on that. I totally agree with what you guys are saying, and totally feel the pain as well. Hong Kong is one of the strictest jurisdiction for crypto. But I think it's a good thing in some sense. It does kind of like give you more clarity as to what institutions can do. Because in my humble opinion, this is the single kind of most important catalyst for institutional adoption. Regulation clarity or unclarity actually equals structural risk. Despite of the returns of how lucrative it is, it's a showstopper for alligators or like asset managers if there's lack of regulatory clarity, or there's like kind of like the settlement or the custody regime is in the legal gray area. The board is never gonna approve it for the corporates. So having the regulatory clarity would be a big booster, and this is why we're seeing kind of uneven regional adoption, precisely because of this reason. There's no unified kind of clarity across different jurisdictions. So I would say, taking the Hong Kong stablecoin regime just now I mentioned as a perfect example. it does crack down a lot of licensed OTC shop in Hong Kong, the ones where you just wheeled in bags of cash into the street, kind of cracking down on the AML is very attractive in that kind of sense. So we are getting there across the globe, and it takes kind of like, I would say, the entire industry effort to make that happen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I would like to shift gears now a bit to the infrastructure itself, right? Really the building blocks that really help some of the business, like what you guys have built to be really successful in the market. So when it comes to the core building blocks of whatever that you guys are building, what do you think is the most critical today? In terms of liquidity, scalability, I know we talk about compliance, right? But is there other things that comes with your?
Well, all of those at once, operating at scale. So right now we have about 5 million users, but our app is actually accessible to 90 million users. So at that point, like, scale becomes a problem for everything, right? Our KYC systems need to scale. Our compliance monitoring solutions need to scale. So it's really that. One change I think that we're also seeing because of this newfound interest from the institutional side is that in the past, when we're just dealing with retail investors, they're happy to transact with you via an app and then that's it. Or for a high net worth individual, it's Telegram. For the more adventurous ones, it'd be Signal. And they're happy to do it via chat. But more and more with institutions, they're looking for standardized APIs. Today, I think there's still no clear standard that we could conform to. They're looking for more maybe SDK type experiences to then resell to their customers. So the technology needs have shifted a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with him. And just to add in a little bit on that is, it's more about security, cyber security as well, because this doesn't get mentioned a lot, but I think literally it's one of the most important factors operating this business. And with more clients comes greater, responsibility, right? And in Thailand and in many other countries as well, we are applying this 90 to 10% ratio, meaning that at least 90% of customers' assets have to be stored inside a cold wallet and the rest in hot wallet. And not only that, we are also storing those 90% plus in a third-party custodian, institutional grade custody, which has proper legal protection, proper security standards, and personnel ready to serve millions of clients.
Yeah. And then I think maybe a bit deeper, right? Basically on the liquidity and the trading side of things, right? I think also because as regional players for you guys, there's always the need, especially when you guys are thinking of liquidity partners that you guys want to work with, you need to balance kind of the local market needs as well as international flows, maybe offering clients USD versus Thai baht versus pesos or Hong Kong dollars in this scenario, right? How do you guys actually balance this, right? Is there any tools maybe from Talos that could help you manage that, things like that?
Yeah, I would take that one. The major market problem here is, especially come firsthand as a OTC trader, is that liquidity has been notoriously fragmented in the space. It's all over the place. It's all over in different venues, and sometimes the liquidity you see is not necessarily true liquidity that you can actually interact with, and this is where Talos comes in. The kind of the smart order router and the algorithm that you guys have and the liquidity aggregation allow us to tap into kind of like deep, reliable liquidity that we can execute on. And this is a kind of like crucial part for us as our fiduciary duty to our clients. But one other problem that kind of extends from this is we don't really have kind of like an industry standard for performance. In TradFi, we have different performances. For example, TWAP, VWAP, POV, and there's a market close. But then it's a 24/7 market here. There's no kind of like standard where institution managers, since the term is pretty fake in the crypto space, that's not a standard term where institution managers can actually hold the brokers accountable for and to assess brokers' performance based on these benchmarks. So I would say this is kind of like a core building block for institutional managers in order to kind of really tap into the space and be able to build out what TradFi currently has.
Yep.
Well, for us at Bitkub, we never had liquidity problem before because we have sufficient users, we have millions of users, right? And then the first 100 listings, there were no problem. But then as you progress, as you keep on listing new projects, we found out that those 5 million users may have higher demand for deeper liquidities, especially on those smaller projects or meme projects, right? And that's when I think Talos shine, because Talos has allowed us to connect to multiple liquidity venue, because we, before this, we only relied on local liquidity from our users. But now with this, we can aggregate all the liquidity from multiple liquidity venues. And we have just started, and we'll see how it goes.
I think we have similar requirements in that to bootstrap liquidity, obviously we have to work with global dealers. And in the past, before using Talos, big props to Talos, obviously, we would integrate directly with a lot of these venues. And it to the point that just managing, building and managing and maintaining these integrations are a full-time job really for a product team. So obviously as the list of potential counterparties grow, we'd wanna work with a partner that already takes care of the aggregation. We're only a couple of years removed from an FTX type incident. So if you were let's say an exchange that relies heavily on FTX, then you're screwed, right? Like you'd have to be able to switch to the best counterparty to source liquidity, and that's what we use Talos for.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think another piece here as well that most people left out, right, is a lot of people think about liquidity, a lot of people think about trading, right? But a lot of things in traditional markets, especially where we came from, there's a lot of focus on post-trade reporting as well, and also best execution, right? I think that's where MICA really plays a part, right? So what do you see these as the equivalent requirements for digital assets infrastructure, and how do you think we are close to achieving them, right? I know, for example, in the case of Bitkub, I know you guys started real early, like best X was one of the requirements when Thai SEC has that framework. So how do you actually establish that right from the start?
Sorry, I missed the first part of the question. Can you repeat it?
Best execution. So about post-trade reporting, best execution,
Oh yeah, we have been under the Thai SEC since January 2019. So that's why we have been in full compliant with the highest accounting standard, that is PAE standard, because we are also heading towards IPO. But on top of that, we are required to do daily reconciliation, daily and almost real time, data connection between us and the Thai SEC. We are also required to use a third-party custodian, and we are required to do a lot of different things in order to be fully compliant with the Thai SEC. And when the institutional wave hit us, then we didn't really need to adapt much because we're already there. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Yeah, I'll say, yeah. Anyone, Taylor?
Yeah, I would kind of add on to it. It's the best X. So taking Hong Kong, for example, they do require OTC. Well, if you run OTC under a licensed exchange, you have to run on the best execution principle. But the best execution principle is actually pretty simple. You basically have to go to 3 or more brokers and then pick the best price. But that is not the best principle that TradFi has in mind. It's basically benchmark different brokers across different metrics that I previously mentioned has not been kind of standardized in the industry yet. It's still a very vague term. So I would say to get there, we have to have enhanced trade metadata. For example, trade analytics. We're talking about different benchmarks versus arrival, etc. You can name it. And having, and as Shell said, the API feed, not just talking about kind of like real-time trade data, we're talking about post-trade as well. That is for the middle office and back office reconciliation, because now we involved kind of on-chain data with ledger entries that has not been present in the current world, in the TradFi world.
Yeah, I think I missed that part, the best execution part. And yes, yeah, I agree with you entirely. Best execution doesn't mean that you have to be priced at the best price. You need to take into account service availability. You need to take into account the spread. You need to take into account the order book's depth, right? Stuff like that. That's actually the requirements of the Thai SEC, and I think everywhere actually.
Actually, one thing that probably hasn't been mentioned yet also is market surveillance. The Philippines SEC just released a new set of rules to regulate exchanges. So there's a bit of a turf war between the central bank and the SEC in the Philippines. They have to figure out like who regulates what. But for the Philippines SEC, market surveillance is something they're very wary about because there's this popular notion that crypto is a world of pump and dumps and market manipulation. I remember explaining to one of the SEC commissioners before that I had no control over the price of Bitcoin. So there was it's a bit of
We're shocked, right?
Yeah. And I didn't have any advanced information either. But kidding aside, I think maybe in the future we'll be expected to have more sophisticated tools to detect anomalous transactions as they're happening in real time.
Yeah, actually, in Thailand, we are required to have a market surveillance team as well. We have a team of about 10, 20 people monitoring all the pricing activities and everything. But I think because they are required us to do so because they are replicating the old frameworks, traditional frameworks. They think of us like the stock exchange. So that's why they are required. But in actuality, we have no controls when it comes to how Bitcoin behave, right?
I wish we do.
Listen to the regulators, they say. Yeah. But anyway, we are running out of time. So thank you all for your fantastic insights today. So to end off the panel, I just want to ask you guys a very, very quick fire question. Right? No right or wrong, right? So complete this sentence, right? The next wave of digital asset growth in your region will be powered by, starting from you, Michelle.
Tokenized real assets.
By Trump.
Probably combine the both of you, Trump and tokenized assets then.
Thank you for your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.